I went to dinner the other day by myself. I was running errands or something, and I went to a restaurant where you go up to the register, you order your food, and then you sit down and they bring it to you and you eat your food and you say, thank you, throw it away, and you leave. So I ordered my food and I sat down next to a group of, I think there was 5 women sitting at the table. And I noticed when I sat down that the one woman was like very adamantly telling a story. She was telling about her boss and how this happened with her boss. And then this coworker showed up. And I just noticed that she was a little bit specific and loud and really into telling the story. But I thought maybe it was something that happened at work that day. And I was trying to decide if I was going to sit by them or not. And I said, well, there's 5 people sitting at that table. She's not going to be the only one talking. She's just getting through her story. So I sat down. And I tend to like not really worry about the environment around me. I can just sit and hang out. I'm on my phone. And I noticed as I was waiting for my food, she continued to tell the story and everybody just sat there. And I looked over and now I'm kind of looking, and some people are looking at their phones and people are shaking their heads. And so then I get my food and I'm eating my food and I set my phone down and I start paying attention, and she's still telling a story, still in that story, and nobody's talked. A couple times another lady tried to interject and she just kept going. She didn't even react to the other person who was trying to interject. I finished my food and threw my food away and all the trash away and wiped off my table. And she was still telling the story. Now I look over at this point and 2 ladies are sort of looking around, and one lady's listening and one lady's on her phone. And I walked away, and I don't know how long her story went on. But I was there for, I would guess, how long does it take to eat a dinner? Like 20 minutes. It wasn't anything fancy, but my gosh, like this lady talked for 20 minutes straight. And it made me think of the fact that there are some people who just are not in tune with paying attention to others, not in tune with having a two-way communication. So that is the point of my video here. And I'm hoping that if all of us could probably learn from this a little bit. I'm sure we're not all guilty of this, but my hope is just to remind anybody watching this that communication goes 2 ways. And there are times in our lives, a few times in our lives, where you just need to dump. You need to tell every detail. You need to tell every emotion you felt. You need to tell what the temperature was outside and which way the wind was blowing and the actual look that person gave you. There's a few times like that. But it should not be the majority of your communication. Dominating a conversation is a one-way flow. And that is not a conversation. That is not communication. So be very conscious of when you are with someone else or you are communicating that you are having a two-way flow, that you are watching the nonverbal reactions of the person you're communicating to, that you are allowing them to be part of the conversation, that you are not giving too much extra that doesn't allow the other person to feel like they're part of it. Because in this scenario, this lady literally should have been standing on stage and these people were her audience. She felt the need to have to dominate that conversation. And you do that enough, I'm thinking that these women are not going to go out with her again. They're going to not want to have a conversation with her, and they're not going to divulge in her things that they want to talk about because they never get a chance to talk themselves. So recognize and be conscious of when you are in communication with somebody, when you are having a conversation, that it goes both ways, that you can tell your story if it's funny or dramatic or whatever, but don't tell too much. Don't take over. Don't dominate the entire conversation, and include the other person. Have them give you feedback, have them ask questions, ask them how they're doing, have them tell part of this, or have them tell their story. Make sure it goes both ways, because you're going to get connected better with people, with patients, with coworkers when you are interested, not interesting. And what that means is that I care about you and I want to hear what you have to say. And I also want you to be included in this conversation. And many times there are people who just think they're interesting. This lady thought she was so interesting that for 20 minutes she could have a one-way conversation with everybody else at the table. Don't be so focused on being interesting, and instead make it a two-way communication and make sure you stay interested.